One. Hello. Hello everyone. This is Angmarian map and Beaurau you're watching, and here is RAGL right into the fray with some more competitive 1v1 map streaming. As you can see, we are already into the game as Eskimo in blue and Barf in yellow. Didn't want to wait any longer before starting the game. They were very eager to basically to play here, as you can see. So yeah, what are we gonna? So what's the agenda for the stream tonight? As you know, or maybe some of us, some of you don't know yet, the map pool for the 5th season of RAGL Global League is already set up at, let's say, at 80%. And 8 maps were already streamed by me on a previous stream, so if you missed that, you can check the VODs on this channel. Or if you are watching this in VOD as well, you can of course check it on YouTube. But there are still 2 spots for maps being picked by you through a public vote. Now the list contains 8 maps as well, from which 2 will be chosen, those 2 that have the most votes on them. And now you're seeing the first map of the list, which is Baphomet by Soulskirt, the honorary official of the RAGL Global League and its rightful owner and founder. The map has codename Mad Rabbit, pun intended here, and it has quite an interesting design in it. As players start relatively close to each other, there is a communication center in the middle, surrounded by a lot of barrels. And there are a lot of oil derricks. As far as I remember, there are 4 oil derricks actually. But there are also some gem mines. Basically 5 gem mines, which is quite a lot for every map, especially this one, but they are placed in weird spots behind the broken bridges. Or no, not every bridge is broken. I don't actually remember which one are. I think these ones are fixed at the start, and 3 of the remaining ones are broken. So it always turns out to be a long distance mining from a refinery placed on the other side of the bridge. While saying that, we have a fight between Barf and Eskimo in the middle. Barf having small advantage with his communication center, but Eskimo trying to do a flank attack on the top. And on this map, probably it's usually a split between top and bottom, but there is a difference that bottom only has 2 mines and top has 2 plus 2 mines. So if one of the players gets bottom as well as one of the corners at the top, he's in um, quite a big advantage on the money for other player, as we can see right now. We probably don't see anymore this map. So Barf was ahead on Eco, and Eskimo forgot to build stuff, which is MCV. So that's it. I don't know, we've probably seen not enough of this map, so we'll run it again
Battle control
right now.
terminated.
Hello Arctic Sea on the comments there. And as for what's up, it's RAGL Vaulted Maps stream, a tournament that you are not yet participating in, but I still hope you will, because I'm actually rooting for you. I'm on the likes of Mo and ZX Gannon visiting the tournament. We have Eskimo back to try and win this map, but I don't see Barf as well, so probably Barf left for something else. As you also probably know or not, there is title of what? As you probably know, there is a team tournament starting soon as well. Basically on the same dates as RAGL starts, so the end of registrations is on 25th of March, and the tournament itself starts on the 4th of April. Everything you want to know about this tournament, this team tournament, you can see on this link I will post in the comments for the stream. Okay, looks like we have another pair of contestants for this map. So let's see how they fare out.
Battle control initialized.
What else can you say about this map? So I've already pointed out that there are four old Erics. These maps, these mines are ore mines, but surrounded by champs, so they don't spawn ore on the start. So this expansion looks even less desirable for players than those ones at the top, because At the top, the ore will grow right away. It can be taken right away. It's easier to grab one of your corners because it's longer for your opponent to reach. Ah, right. I've said 6 oil derrick, but I forgot about this 2, so that makes up 6 oil derricks, not 4. So far, this map is one of the 2 that um, make communication center viable on it. Because usually the placed communication center influences the game too much for the player that grabs it, and for the player that grabs it, it's much easier to control the map, to have map control not only in the middle but on other parts of the map as well, because that player just sees what's coming through in the middle, and then he can move his army elsewhere. At the same time, it's hard to other player to defend it, to defend against it, because he needs to do a lot of effort to destroy the communication center in the middle, and or recapture it for himself, which actually doesn't happen that often. But on this map, as well as racetracks, the communication center actually works okay, I think. It doesn't influence the outcomes too much. Certainly, certainly, it's important because it allows you to defend the shortest way between spawns, uh, but probably not that important because you always have this road around the map, and there are also 2 roads at the edge of the map, the bottom one and top one, which can be used by fast units like rangers, APCs, especially APCs, like what you will see here. And I think those are rockets because I don't see any flame tower being popped. Ah, it's even grenadiers, which will not send his enemy to low power. Well, they shouldn't, but he built a radar dome and didn't power it down. Now the second power plant went down. Now we see that he's in red, which means he's in very bad spot here. Now at 30, I think he needs to sell one of his refineries as well as power down his radar dome, because otherwise he will have a huge ton of time before he returns to normal power. And he should have also switched to advanced power plant from normal power plant, as well as place it right now. Place it. Yeah, it's still low. Probably he doesn't know that he can power it down. Even Eskimo pointed it out, but maybe he thinks that he will do fine. He managed to pop out another basic power plant, not advanced one. And what's with this radar dome, I don't know, because he's on 2 harvesters, now 3. doesn't have any army and doesn't even use the radiodrome he has. So that radiodrome was probably not that desirable display, and I don't think it even works on this map because bound distance is too small. Grenadiers are very dangerous. Any other rushes are dangerous as well. And running from one refinery high-tech builds won't ever work on this map. And what else is bad tech-wise on this map, I think, is that you lose too much of map control when you go tech. And map control is very important here because you just lose access to expansions if you don't press your opponent. So, like this, if you back off to your home base, your opponent can just lock you down with 2 MCVs, and you won't even have any possibility to get out of it. That's that. And this game already looks quite over. Because wood or what or whatever has just an too overwhelming advantage with assets, economy, bases, map control, and he just needs to run in or his opponent or GG. So that's this map for you, the Baphomet, and we are moving to the next one.
Battle control terminated.
And the next one, which was going to be picked, but I think it didn't make it in the final roster just by a slight margin. But still, very interesting map, the Ragnarok, made by one of the nicest persons or in RAGL community by the name of Juicebox.
Battle control initialized.
So what can I tell you about this map? This map is on quite big side comparing to other popular competitive maps. It has a huge side tracks for attacks. I think no obvious expansions as double mind expansions are placed quite away from both players. And close naturals, should say, have not that much of a comfortable position and also have only one mine. This placement of barracks by Paolo is a poor choice here because you don't want to block this spot, otherwise you are going to have problems with placing your refinery. If you place it here, the ore truck out of it will have tough time going up and around your refinery to gather any ore here. So this probably is the only know-how on this map for the bottom player, as top player doesn't have this problem and he can place refinery both to the left and to the top of his single mine ore patch. We can see as well that there are 3 oil derricks and DJ Bobo capturing 2 of them already. And he is better on his war factory as well, his economy, while Paolo even delayed his war factory for some reason. And now he already lost quite a lot of infantry. I think it was 12 plus an engineer. Oh, so he didn't even lose the engineer. So either it was 17 infantry or another engineer that died. So he built a second one, which doesn't have any target now because the third oil derrick is in total control by DJ Bobo as well. Paul is a bit greedy on his refinery build up, building a rocket soldier as well. Timing for it is okay because at this point some vehicles may pop up, but building one ranger and then the second ranger instead of building 4 trucks and even a light tank is not a good way to go here. Yeah, so what else is interesting on this map is that it has 5, 7, 8 mines per player. But even with that count, the general money count per player through the whole game seems quite lacking. I don't know why, because having 16 mines on the map is pretty much the maximum number to not have it too much. Probably because ore patches themselves are quite small and the starting ore is not that big. As you can see, these 2 are basically empty at the start, so they don't add up as much money as you have wanted to. So for the end game, 8 mines is okay, but during the mid game, yeah, you have seen what it is like to move your infantry into enemy infantry. Because infantry has less vision than it has weapon range. So what you always want to do with your infantry is having it standing while enemy infantry comes into your army, because your rifles waste time moving from cell to cell, and that's quite a lot, because one rifle dies much faster than he moves from one cell to another cell. I don't know, I think we've seen some of this map, but we'll move forward, and if I'll have time, we'll return to Ragnarok. And so far, we'll move to another map, which is some new map by Kazu. Not exactly new already, but one of the new ones. It's Blabomole, the map with a strange name. It's rather Blobophobia didn't make it into the competitive scene and was considered somewhat inferior, so was rather quickly forgotten, I should say. But this one is rather interesting, having 6 oil derricks, having a gem mine in the middle, and quite an asymmetric movement of enemies around, of players around, to be correct, or to be precise. So, while we are waiting for some players, and quite strange to wait for some players as there are quite a lot around today. An hour ago it was 90, I think. Currently I can see count, the exact count, because I can see it inside a server lobby. But I think something around the same number, 90 around, but no one wants to play any competitive maps, because mostly major players have decided to train for team games right now, feeling that they don't need any more practice for the global league, or rather they will have both birds killed with one stone playing in team games, and not forgetting about how to play in general competitive 1v1s. So you can see around some games in 2v2s, like Gatekeeper and Yunano training. I think they are on the same team. There were Team USA with Barf and Smithy, and Team Germany with Lori and Kaza as well. And also Team England with Juicebox and Happy, which all are considered major contestants for the prize. And I see that that match with Inan, Gatekeeper and others has finished. So they joined the spectator train, the infamous one. Unfortunately, they don't want to play. Well, maybe if there are no players, I'll have a go as well. But as you probably have seen in the previous stream, I'm not that good at playing and streaming at the same time. Well, maybe I'm not that good in general, and especially not that good at playing and streaming and speaking at the same time. And looks like we have another pair of players to showcase Blomomoli right now.
Battle control
And I
initialized.
definitely need to add some options from Aberrat to always have my server enabling export map and disabling crates by default, which is nice to have. So let's see how players run it here. Roberto Blanco tries an interesting strategy, no, rare one, running refinery first instead of barracks first. And probably on this map it's not especially not viable because you're losing too much on the derricks around. He's running into direct war factory without any barracks. That might play in some way, if he manages to run fast enough with his ranger, picking up loose rifles and enemy engineers. But still, I think he'll have tough time to defend against infantry with just a ranger, and he won't be able to capture enough as an engineer and a ranger. And we see some walls, which is especially strange here. I'd like to see a ranger and an engineer to cap all those derricks around, especially here and here, as they're not contested, but of course Roberta Blanca doesn't know it yet. Yeah, here goes an engineer. How's he doing on money? He's doing not great, but he already has 2 ore trucks and 1 refinery soon. But unfortunately, his engineer was delayed a bit. And now he starts capping oil derricks in the middle. This APC might mess up with his plans, especially if he is not careful enough with an engineer. He caps the oil derrick, but I think this engineer will die now. What? I've barely seen it, but yeah, hedges it. And no additional engineer by Roberto here. At the same time, Wood kept 2 oil derricks at the top. I think he lost his engineer in the process to a ranger, but ranger got caught by rifles at the top because rangers can't crush, as well as buses can't swim. And that wall by Roberta didn't work at all because APCs can crush walls, sandbags, and barbed wires. Some hammer pillboxes, somehow not seen around as much, but considering there are some bugs with frozen actors in open array, hammer pillboxes are much more interesting for defending players than normal pillboxes, because as far as I remember, if your long range unit targets a Kama pillbox and it goes out of vision, then you can't correctly force fire the cell it's placed on. You don't see the Kama pillbox under fog of war, and if you try to force fire it, or the place where it was standing, something strange happens, if I recall correctly, that your units move to this cell rather than try to fire onto it. So if you have enough Kama pillboxes and your opponent is not careful enough to have some heavy armor in front of his army, then you can't move around those camos, and you can't even target them correctly. So against a player using camos, having some tanks in front is a must. It's absolutely necessary. Because air scouting doesn't help, as you don't see, as your air units don't have any vision on camo pillboxes. So you just check with your air units, see that there are no defenses, then you happily stream in and camo pillboxes pop up and shred your army to pieces. While I'm saying that, Roberto Blanco tried to take up all the way to a chronosphere, which is quite strange and more looks like a team player rather than 1v1 player, because he only now at 7:30 moves his additional MCV to grab some territory. But his original base resources are depleted and he's in bad shape money-wise. He absolutely needs a quick refinery on the gems to boost up his economy, and then move to one of the regular mines around. Because if he doesn't do it, he's screwed here, as Wood will just outpace him on money. They are on par with Orderics, as they both have 2. And I've actually missed the moment that Roberto captured these 2 in the middle, as he seems that he built another engineer to cap that. And it's a mighty expansion in the middle, grabbing the grown gem mine with 3 ore trucks, which puts Roberto's money, well, as you see, it skyrockets up, while he doesn't even use his war factory queue, but that doesn't matter because there are no defenses, or not a lot of defenses. And here you can see the bug that was introduced by the latest release with V2s, that when weaponless, or rather when their weapon is reloading, V2s don't retarget on new enemies in range, because when they're reloading, there is a new trait for their armor right now, and on reload it works like they have no weapon at all. So when they're reloading and you order them to a move, or the previous target dies during a move, they think that they don't have any weapons and just move, the same as your hijackers or mechanics or medics will do, as when they don't have any targets on a move and they don't have anything to heal or to repair, they just move in. And I have already filed a PR on GitHub for that, in hope it will be merged in, and it will be, of course, but I don't think any hotfix release will be up for it. So we hope to introduce this fix for the RAGL maps at least, just so that Soviet players won't be inferior with their V2. As currently, without this fix, that was a nice snipe on Tanya. Without this fix, V2s are only playable with a careful manual control only, because in every way when you order them to A move, they just happily rush in right into your enemy's army and die there. So without this fix you can't even use your V2s properly. We see some Soviet center section. Also we see another display of this bug. And I see that we also have Lori and Kazo in the comments. So hello to you guys. Seeing you on team tournament as well. Might even stream some of that in the future if I get lucky. And if that doesn't interfere with RAGL plans. Yeah, we have some chrono tank action here. Which plays rather interestingly into Roberta's favor here. Because otherwise what controls the whole map, and Roberta doesn't even have a proper... right, he has an expansion here with a lot of ore trucks grabbing as much as they can with a single run. And now he's transferring them to Gem Mine again. Well, you don't see chrono tanks often in this game. Wow, and that was even a quick MCV chrono in. Was that an interesting play by Roberta here? With chronos and chrono MCV, which dies unfortunately, as he should have. Probably he was better at undeploying that MCV, letting it die and grabbing it with a mechanic than getting it killed just right away as a construction yard. But still, chrono tanks deal quite a big amount of damage here. And now an MCV for some reason pops out runs in. Okay, there is another MCV by Roberta, and that core is being harassed very much. And what panicked so much that he brought 2 MCVs into his main base. And a second one as well by Roberta. I think he just has his rally point, yeah, and just builds a lot of MCVs around. Yeah, we see here some nice action by chrono tanks. Well, he certainly doesn't control them enough, and Heinz will just die too easily to a single SAM site here. But still, they killed 1 or 2 ore trucks, killed an MCV, And still two chrono tanks left, with two already being built as backup. If only Roberta didn't waste some like he does in these engagements, and he also needs to repair some of it. And single mechanic, I think he needs some more for a backup. While that fight is going on what spawn, we see that what destroyed a lot of ore trucks on Roberto's expansion. And Roberto is probably very low on... No, he's not that low on money, but he's continuing to do heavy stuff with his chrono tanks, and I think he needs to... his opponent actually needs to switch to some more air units. Because Roberta doesn't build that much A guns, and one or two MiGs would have been enough for dealing with chrono tanks here. Because chrono tanks don't have any anti-air. And those rocket soldiers will be just too slow to deal with mix micro. If only Roberto doesn't build any longbows, which he does now, that will play even worse. Yeah, and I've missed this one completely. That Roberto dealt with this expansion as well, and is now popping up more chrono attacks on the right side of the map. Now he will grab another expansion. And what is doing with his economy situation here? I don't know, because he doesn't have a lot of refineries, and that he doesn't even have a lot of ore trucks. He only have 4. Now this refinery goes down, so he's basically mining only here. And he absolutely needs to transfer at least to this patch and finally deal with this MCV here, as well as building some refineries on the left side. And maybe even moving his construction yard to this expansion, because it's absolutely not contested. There is some air hunt by what? And some nice one, but probably not that effective, and it's going to be... Ah, right. Roberto has a GPS satellite as well, so he knows everything. And by the speed of moving glyphs here, he knows that those were flag trucks, so he just can position his air units the way he pleases. Well, at first I was thinking that it's all for winning this game, but now I'm not that sure. Actually, it looks like Roberto did a good job with his late game economy and late game units use. Yeah, and what is good GG here. Yeah, it's quite an interesting game here.
Battle control terminated.
And as this interesting game goes, we are moving to our next map. Which is, let me check the list, which is this one. In current voted map pool and in the whole map pool for season 5, this is probably, not probably, but this is a single map with any possibility of naval play, which can be considered unfortunate because there are some changes with naval made by Smithy in terms of accuracy of tier 3 units, like missile subs are almost precise right now, and cruisers are much less likely to miss their targets. And now we'll have a Rashomir here. No, we won't. That's unfortunate. But maybe someone else will take their place. So, well, we're waiting for some players. I maybe can say some words about this map. This map is interesting in a way that it splits the game in two parts. Because in the middle you have a patch of water, and on the sides you have huge ore patches with 4 mines each. But the peculiar thing about those mines is that those mines are placed on the edge of the ore patch, which makes it somewhat possible to be mined from by 2 players at once. But generally, the problem is that because of that split, the game evolves here in 2 ways. So either both players contest the same side, and the player that prevails on that has a huge advantage, just because he wins the engagement and forces other player to waste time and go all the way around and grab the other patch. And at the same time he can pop his second MCV up, or grab his original MCV even, and contest the second ore patch as well. Or it can go another way, when both players go different sides, and if it goes so, then players just divide them up in some way, and it goes relatively even for both players. And the second problem with this split is that you always need something like two armies on both sides of the split. Because if you have only one, then if that army is misplaced and the fight is going on elsewhere, then that army is just has too much time to get to the fight because of the split, because it needs to go all the way around. And I have, or rather had, something like this problem on my map as well, the sacrificial circle, where both center expansions were placed on 2 sides, and it always evolved into either a fight for one expansion and one of the players winning both game and expansion in a single fight, or divided the game between 2 players when they wrapped different ore patches. So that's something worth looking into when designing a map. And highly likely a thing to avoid. So, while saying that, we have already 2 players ready, and we can see this map ourselves. Luck, have
Battle
fun.
control initialized.
And here is it. Here it is. One other interesting thing about this map is that on the spawn you have almost 6 mines. So first you have 4 directly close mines to the spawn, which is already a big count because mostly competitive maps have something like 3 mines placed in 2+1 composition, or sometimes in a 3 in a row. And 4 mines for a spawn is rarely used. But here we have 4, and we even have 2 in the backlines, which are not. I think I have a wrong map here. Maybe a right one. I don't know really. I remember something about fixing the civilian buildings, but I still see there are some around. Oh well, for if it's picked for something competitive, then it will be looked into, of course. Yeah, so anyway, even if used by long distance mining, you can get access to 6 ore mines from the spawn, like moving your MCV several times up, then crawling with one power plant or barracks, and then building refinery. And all in all, this makes up for a huge amount of mines on this map, because there are 6, and there are 4, which makes 10, and 11, so there are 22 mines on a 1v1 map, which is a huge one. And we have an Eskimo having some problems with connection. Yeah, so 22 mines is just pushing it. And that means even more in regards to both players contesting as the same side, because on money counts that huge, you lose even more when being forced off the ore patch to another side, because it's like, I don't know, 40 cells between this and this ore patch, and that's quite a long time for an MCV to move. So far we see that it's highly likely that Yunana will have an easy time here, because his opponent is seriously lacking on economy build up, And Yunana is already grabbing the left ore patch. One of the interesting things about this map also is that there are oil derricks, which are placed on so far sides that they are rarely used by players, because you just don't miss much with not building any engineers, and if you do, engineers take a lot of time to grab those, and those two don't make much of a difference on the map with such a high count of ore mines. Maybe placing them here and here instead, even or maybe adding two oil derricks instead of these ore patches will make somewhat more interesting for players, and also that will reduce ore counts somewhat. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll have another game on this map a bit later.
Battle control terminated.
As for now, we move on. Check something else. Or maybe if Yunana wants to have another go on this map, then I'll just run it up. I just hope Apparat will disconnect from my server, or else I'll need to boot him out and restart it. Okay. Sorry, Apparat, if you hear this. I have restarted you. And the next map is this one. Angmarian Grove by Zero. Which was posted on Resource Center quite a long time ago, and was even played for some time, but then was somewhat forgotten by players. But then it was brought up by Anycage again as a competitive map. And it got quite an interest from players, so it was used in Lorry Drivers tournament and is now um, somewhat more popular.
Battle control initialized.
And you can see that there are huge ore patches on spawns, both having uh, ore mines and spread around quite far, and there are also several expansions for both players, which are placed in rather uninteresting spots, like this one and this one are quite out of the way, and this and this one are on the inner side, but they don't have much of money on them, and which makes this ore patch and this ore patch something like naturals on this map. Okay, so back into the game. We see Nazis, I don't know, whatever, building two engineers on a map with 0 oil derricks, which is probably a misclick or some devious plan. And they will now, a lot of rocket soldiers will die, which will make this game end rather soon, I think. Yeah, I won't say anything, but probably he's not that good. And Jake Elmore should finish him off rather quickly here. So, about this map, there is also an interesting forest area in the middle, which makes it impossible for any MCV push, but still the spawn to spawn distance is rather small. At the same time, this choky area in the middle makes it easier for units like APCs to crush a lot of infantry around, whether it moves through the forest. Okay, so this game doesn't fare quite along as well as the previous one. If only Jake Homer had some more rockets to his roster. Yeah, so we move on to the next map, and then this one is one of the map we can return to in case there is a time for it.
Battle control terminated.
And well, that we're moving to our next map, which is wow, bad at this. Which is also a map by Kazu, and is a remake of one of his older maps. It's Road Kings, or if to be correct in naming, it's Road Kings 2. Mm, yeah, but I think I might join for a single game or two, just for the giggles. And as for RAGL signups, yeah, I can agree that mm, uh, players players are not that eager to join right now, but um, as far as I remember, previous season it was something like this too, and most players only confirmed at the end if masters and minions are concerned, and for records, yeah, it's a bit underperforming, but mostly I think I'll blame our advertisement campaign and our RAGL.org website being down a lot. So it is what it is, and we'll see how we do. And probably Aberrat's team tournament doesn't help as well, because it grabs some attention and some players from RAGL onto itself, and some players opting to just play team games instead of joining 1v1s. And mm, it's unfortunate that some minion players decided to not sign up, or rather decline to sign up, such as Elorus or Surcake. because that makes it less exciting to play in minions, as minions uh, were supposed to have two groups, and I hope they still will. But to make up for diminished roster for minions, I think some of fifth placed recruits from season 4 will be brought up. The likes of Lucian or Talix. And no worry, Yunano. I think Barf will just sign in the same as always on the last day of registrations, as he always do, or should I say as he always does, because I'm bad at grammar with English.
Battle control initialized.
Yeah, as well as Andrew. And Andrew is one of those players that are not practicing a lot, but still in contention every time. And Aberrant is actually one of those players that were always playing in Masters, as he is up to play his 5th season in Masters, and he's still good at it, which is actually not bad of a trait for him. And yeah, as for Aberrant, I think Aberrant has already declined to play, and that's a pity. That's a pity. Although I still hope he will change his mind, as well as Arctic Sea, for example. I don't think War Room is the 5th installment of the tournament, especially with his performance last season, as he reached the second round of Pass to the Hidden Master, losing only to Kazo, who made it into the Masters from records right away. And you know, losing to Kazo is not that bad of a trade, because Kazo is definitely one of the top players around. And so, while saying all this, we can probably return our attention to the map at hand, which is Road Kings. We have 3 plus 1 equaling to 4 binds on the spawn for each players, which is one of the recent things Kazo likes to do on his maps, and we will see the same ore mine layout for spawns on one of the next maps as well. We have a strange small expansion on the outsides near the long boards over the water. A single mine, big expansions here and here near the oil derricks, which are 4 on the map, one in the corner and one in the middle. And we also have something of a natural on the cliff sides here and here. And what makes it a bit more spicy is a double ore mine in the middle, which is placed in such a way that it actually makes two expansions instead of one, because you can't easily grab both mines in the middle. Although you can place MCV on the side probably and crawl all the way up and down, but then you will have tough time defending it because there are just too much ways to approach from every side into the middle. Yeah, see you, Eskimo. Good to see you every time on stream, on voice, on game. And I see that I have a lot of dropped frames on my stream, so if the video is sketchy, then sorry, because I don't know what happens today with my internet connection, but it's that, and it will probably feel somewhat sketchy. And actually, stream health on Twitch dashboard looks like a pulse from a patient in a hospital with spikes up and down. And still have game going on. We have our interesting winner of one of the previous matches, Roberto Blanco, playing as Soviet now, as Ukraine. Builders at the bottom get destroyed. And there is an attack of Roberto Blanco and J-Comar's expansion, which he decided to take. He decided to take both ones, the top and the bottom. Now the bottom one. I don't know whether it will hold. Certainly Tyrant won't help a lot, so unfortunately for J-Comar this expansion goes down. Was not enough army to hold it, and there is some reinforcements by Roberto Blanco, but at the same time J-Comar moves around with his actual army to the top of Roberto Blanco, but I think Roberto Blanco detected that. Because he moved all his forces to defend against that, and also had some defensive structures way. So now it's reverted to one expansion per each player, but Roberto Blanca has some additional army, and I think he leads on assets a bit, but lacking one harvester to his opponent. And players are both on Razor Dome, they're both having some air units. Only J-Comar is much better at his eco. And also J-Comar has 2 war factories, which is used more frequent recently. But still not as much. And Roberta has a nice eco right here on the left, destroying Warhammer and drawing all attention of J-Comar to the side of the map, while actually planning an attack on the top and grabbing some expansions from J-Commerce on the bottom. So that's a 3-pronged move by Roberta Blanca. Nice one. Well, seeing both of these players play, I would definitely say that they are record material, so I hope they will both sign up, and I need to advertise RAGL. Lori, about the triple mines, if I remembered correctly, actually it was Doomsday who suggested I should... Well, I'm 80% sure that it was Doomsday and 20% that it was Yunano, but I think it was Doomsday who suggested I should add a 3rd mine to that equilibrium map, and then I used the same stuff on Trench. Yeah, and I think that's all. And then Kazu started using his 3+1 compositions. Yeah, but still... right. I'm forgetting about River of Gold also, which has triple mines. But at least I'm glad that there are some totally new compositions of spawns, expansions, or mines all around. Because during the previous year, mostly, and before, most of the maps were feeling just somewhat generic, I think. Something like sidestep and pit fight were just a defined old school era of mapping. Like having well-defined expansions, like you always know where you should go first, and not a lot of different points where you can actually place an MCV, something like that, and also 12 mines per map was something of a standard, but now we have a huge difference in maps disposition right now, like 14 mines maps, 16 mines maps. Uh, are becoming a new meta in map design, and I'm also glad that gem mines start to become a thing on maps, because they were not at all used on previous pack of maps, the competitive ones. And now you will see gem mines on every other map out there, probably the majority of the maps.
Battle control initialized.
And gem mines make the games much more stable, because they allow the losing player to somewhat alleviate the eco situation. If gem mines are placed close to the spawns, and if they are placed far away from the spawns, but there are two gem mines, they make another vector of approach for players. Like you can have a stable expansion, I don't know, something like this one, or you can go to a gem mine and have a huge boost of eco, and you can complement that with a fast tech or something like double, or I don't know, even triple war factory, and you will have enough eco to sustain a huge production you will have, but probably more for tech routes and an extensive route. Yeah, so gem mines are hard to use correctly on the map. Well, a bit harder than ore mines, because if there are a lot of gems and they just spike your economy up, and if used early, then that economy is not even used by players, because it can be used at that early stage of the game. There is only one barracks production and hopefully one war factory production, and that's it. But somewhere in the mid game, gem mines just provide enough additional eco to allow players bigger armies or several armies run around at once. And yeah, fast tech is always more possible for players if they have boosted eco for them. So, returning to the map, we have El Azahar. As I was saying before, here is a 3+1 mine placement. Other than that, it has something close to what I was saying of old school generic expansion placement. We have 2 defined expansions for each player, but still there is no clear expansion route, because either you take this as a natural or this one as a natural, and they're both juicy to be taken as a first expansion. Interestingly, Jake Homer decided to not expand on the left ore patch, and as he'll probably do it now. And we see Aberrat trying to force his way to a double mine natural. I'm not comfortable with naming expansions naturals, because yeah, I know it's coming from StarCraft and something like the Lost Temple era, where you have a clear expansion right close to your base, which was considered natural, but maps like this, there is no defined natural. So probably double mine expansion is a bit more interesting, because obviously it has two ore mines, but that's it. And this expansion has more ore and is also somewhat closer to your opponent than this one. Yeah, but still this one is more interesting for first expansion, I think. What makes it what makes these expansions less interesting for players to grab is that you need to park your MCV on the other side of it, because if you place it closer to your main, then your ore trucks are exposed to the enemy, and you don't have any possibility to defend them correctly with static defenses. So I feel that you always need to place MCV on the other side, but if you place it on the other side, then your expansion actually gets vulnerable to attacks from this vector, like your enemy coming all the way here, and then he can choose either attacking your ore trucks here, or your main here, or your second expansion here. So this expansion is trickier than this one. So what's happening in this game is that Aberrat is making a successful base push on Jacomar's main. He has a nice attack on defenses, and well, this army will definitely not get anything, but this one does. And that was a very juicy V2 rocket shot. So Aberrot lost a lot of his army composition, but still got an... That was not an expansion MCV, but that was the only MCV, or it was destroyed here as well. I don't. Of course, I'm not paying attention enough, but Jacomar is in a dire situation of having no MCV at his base, and he's pressed against the map H and has nothing to expand with. And now Aberrot makes up with more troops and complementing his army with 5 medium tanks. I think he has just enough to push through and destroy service depot. If only Jacomar doesn't defend it, as he probably will. Jacomar has 1v2 and he needs to use it carefully, especially remembering that there is a bug with V2s right now. Yeah, he loses one, he has another, and he needs to point it into the infantry blob correctly. But the problem is he doesn't have any rockets, so unfortunately for him it's GG. Because Aberrot is grabbing more expansion to his name and destroying everything at Jacalmar's base at the same time. Yeah, it's time for Jacalmar to just forfeit the game here. And I think I have some very bad problems with connection again. If that's so, then there's something in chat. I will lower bit rate a bit if that helps, but I don't like how it goes. Oh, I have missed something, which makes the last stand for Jacalmar. The engineer that was standing here came all the way up to Aberrot's main and grabbed his MCV. But that was not enough to salvage anything from this game. So, GG is called. And I think we will be moving to the last map of the stream, which also happens to be the last map on the vote list. And call it a night afterwards, because I'm not happy with how my connection fares today. And I don't want you to
Battle control
suffer from it.
terminated.
the last map of the stream, we will have this one. I'm so scared, and it will probably be something of a big one in terms of game length. So, saying that it will be the last map of the stream doesn't at all say that this will be short. Because I don't even remember any game on this map shorter than 10 minutes. And most of the games spanning as long as 20 or 30 minutes at least. Yeah, I liked how Roberto Blanco played around.
Battle control initialized.
Okay. Let's see how the ping goes, okay. Let's sketch a bit maybe. That's still bearable. Right, so I think for some reason OBS brought up all the way to using half of my CPU resources, like 2 cores out of 4, and that was the reason it actually spiked up, or rather spiked the stream FPS down. So let's see how this game goes around. Still has problems, OBS, I don't know why, but okay. Maybe it's orders that I used, because I'm on software and I should move to hardware to NVIDIA, but I don't know, I need to test it. Anyways, about this map. As you have already heard, this one is on a huge site. One of the interesting details of it that it has a gem mine on the start, complementing to a double ore mine patch. And all in all, there is not that lot of money on the start, but there is a close forward command which makes first refinery expansion much easier. This and this patch. There are also small patches near the spawn, and three additional mines on the other corner, as well as two oil derricks and a hospital in each corner behind the broken bridge. I remember Softskirt has something about that broken bridge, in terms that he actually placed the repaired one instead. But on this revision, which is the last revision I'm seeing right now, it's still broken. So that requires some engineers involvement, because you need one engineer to repair the bridge and then another one to cap all the buildings in the corner. Okay, we have some grenadier section. And we see some double engineer from Roberta here. At the point you need to be somewhat aggressive on engineers build up. You anyway need two engineers to be successive with grabbing stuff around. There was another communication center here and here, but it was removed by Southcare. Which made it a little bit less of an issue with engineers, and probably you may leave building two engineers for mid-game if you don't want to commit early, because that's at least 1k of money early in the game to grab two oil derricks, and it takes at least 1 or 2 minutes to get that much money. I think it's 15 seconds for 100 for an oil derrick, and that's 2. So that makes 100 in 15 seconds, which makes 800 in a minute. That's a bit over a minute to just get the money back for to engineers, which can be spent somewhat elsewhere on this map, at least early in the game. But still, there is a gem mine to complement that, so that's a decision you can make around on this map, running for capture boss or not. At the same time, we have Roberta attacking the front of UD's base, and he's not that good at defending stuff. He's lucky enough that Roberta doesn't have a lot of rockets in his roster, so he destroyed 2 war trucks, but only so fast as that. Okay, so this is something of a respawn attack by UD here. He's getting caught by a communication center and interestingly placed Kama pillbox here. So this attack goes absolutely destroyed and not as effective as it may have been. Same time, UD is building up expansions on the left side. In terms of assets, he's not seriously, but 6k ahead, behind, 5k, but he's building up very quickly. Because he's spending his money fast. He got some army, not some, but a lot of his army destroyed, but he's catching up. The main disadvantage for him now is that he doesn't have radar dome, which Roberta has. He can alleviate that if he builds some flag trucks to defend against Heinz and to catch artists off guard, but he doesn't, and that might be a problem for him. At the same time, Roberta should do something about, like destroying MCV, destroying this expansion here, and this one here, as he has a huge amount of tanks right away. Roberta's Kama pillbox placement is an interesting one here. You don't, as I was saying already, you don't generally see players use Kama pillboxes, and here it works okay. And now there will be some attacks by both players on different sides of the map, and UD probably doesn't want to engage here. because he will be going through a choke and into a turret and a camera pillbox, and also anti-air ready by Roberta, but I don't think he needs that because there is still no radar dome for UD. This expansion got destroyed. So I don't think it was even necessary for Roberta to move away his MCV, because if he had some of the micro, he could have picked rockets here and then placed 1 or 2 turrets to deal with heavy tanks. Instead, he decided to move away a bit. Now he destroyed the whole attack of UD here. He's doing the things that he should have done much earlier in the game. Well, not much, but 2 minutes ago. He's destroying the expansion here. Still, both players are somewhat even. Yeah, they're almost even on assets, almost even on earns, and UD is a bit better in this part. So gameplay became a bit too stale. Probably a good time for one of the players to use some pure 3 stuff, like Tanya here. Probably some longbows as well. For Roberto would be nice. Although on a second thought I think not, because there are a lot of black trucks involved. Roberto should definitely utilize his tank force here. And he can run through this whole pack of infantry without much effort, because I think there are only 1 or maybe 3 rockets here. At the same time, UD does another attack here. And Sanya will pick a lot of stuff here. Yeah. Destroy the whole infantry pack. Now only needs to deal with 3 heavy tanks here. And he might lose his service depot, which will mean no tanks anymore. And Roberta brought the whole pack of his medium tanks here, which again I don't really approve, because he just moves a single blob from left to right to left. And that's not how you win on this map, because you always want to have 1 or 2 armies, as well as some raiding stuff around. Now we see attack action from Roberta with his tanks force. He should definitely destroy 1 or 2 expansions here. At least several refineries. deal some serious damage, because if he doesn't, then it will look very bad for Roberta, losing all his tank force for nothing here. Yeah, that hind force was quite good, but now his tier 3 stuff gets destroyed. He was probably using his tech center only to get GPS online, because apart from a single Tanya, he didn't even use anything from tier 3 and no chrono tanks, as he was using to great extent on his previous game. Gain some exchange in attacks and armies here, and we see that actually UD is at a great loss here, having 20k less assets than his opponent, because his opponent is utilizing the whole top side among all expansions on the top, whereas UD has only started to grab this patch, and this one is not used. Yeah, and this attack here should have much greater success than previous ones. As I was saying, Roberto was much better at assets in the end, and that won him the game. So, I think that will conclude today's stream. As you have seen, all the maps up for a vote to be included in the Season 5 map pool. So be sure to register for the 5th season of RAGL and vote for the maps you would like to see being played around. If you are hesitating about registering in the leagues, then I think you should definitely have a try at it, because it's only 2 games per week, which is not much, and you should definitely always have time for it, especially if you play Open Ra every week. Then you might as well have a competitive game every week, not a casual one. You might have some slight difficulties sometime with properly scheduling your games, especially if your opponent is on a completely different time zone. But nevertheless, you'll always have some window of opportunity to schedule those games, and even if not, then you always have time to delay your games to later dates, and then have them at a more comfortable time for you and your opponent. So see you in RAGL, see you on stream, and this is the end of this stream. So goodbye, see you soon.